Hey friend, welcome to the Grief to Great Day podcast. Do you feel like you're going crazy? Is the shower the only place you let yourself really cry? Are you surrounded by people yet still feel completely alone? And do you long to be the you were before they died, but you have no idea how to get there? I'm Steph Cabanis, Southern by choice, wife, wannabe triathlete, Jesus follower, and fellow traveler on this road of grief. I know what it's like to struggle, to breathe, to question God and my faith, and to wonder if happiness would ever return. But friend, let me tell you, God is still good, and there is still hope. Grief may feel like you're lost in a storm at sea, tossed by waves you never saw coming. But in that darkness, there is still a light. We follow the light of the Lord. We take small steps forward, and we lean on faith, even when we don't feel like we have any. So if you're ready to navigate this journey, to find your footing after loss, and to take just one step toward healing, bring your ugly cry, get into a comfortable place, even if that's your bed right now, and let the healing begin. You are not alone. This is not your forever, and you will be able to breathe, to laugh, and to live again. Hey friend, I want to take a moment to share something important with you about Grief to Great Day. This year has brought a lot of change, not only in the ministry, but in my personal life as well. Now, the last episode you probably heard was Grief to Great Day is going private, but there's a new episode here and it's public, so you may think, what in the world is going on? Grief to Great Day began in 2021, and there was a podcast, a website, and a private Facebook group. Every week, I uploaded 1 to 2 episodes, so there are now over 200 episodes of the podcast available publicly. Earlier this year, my desire to make a closer community resulted in moving platforms. I closed the Facebook group and made the podcast private. That was in April. At the end of May, my husband Jeff had rotator cuff surgery, and in June was back in the hospital with chest pain and difficulty breathing. We were reassured by paramedics, nurses, physician assistants, and 2 emergency room docs that what he had was inflammation in between the ribs causing his symptoms. As they took him for a CT to simply rule out a pulmonary embolism, I sat in the little curtained off space with no serious concerns. In that time that I was waiting, God gave me a clear moment of peace and direction. It was time to close Grief to Great Day. Y'all, that was very weird. It's a weird thought. I wasn't even thinking about the ministry at that point. But as certain as I was when I began this ministry, I felt just as certain that this season was coming to an end. It came at such a strange time when I only had thoughts about what Jeff was going through, so I really didn't ask God why. I just sat with the strangeness of the timing. Jeff returned, and a little later the physician came back and told us that he, in fact, had a moderate to large pulmonary embolism. Y'all, it was on. A long 24-hour stay in the emergency room, where the only place they had an exam room was in the psych wing. No need to go into what we witnessed and heard, but it hurt me that people are so tormented. Jeff was started on what they call a heparin or a blood thinner drip, and the next day we were transferred to the heart center, where we were able to get a little sleep. We were in the hospital for 4 days and came home a bit confused and tired, and Jeff was put on a blood thinner for probably around 6 months. He was told he would have chest pain still because the embolism is still there. The body needs time to reabsorb it, while the blood thinner doesn't get rid of it, it just helps it not grow. After a week and a half of being home, Jeff began having chest pains, which were more than what we were told he would experience. So on the evening of his birthday, we're back in the emergency room. They told us that the embolism, which he still had, was getting smaller, and that was supposed to be really good news. We were sent home. We both remarked that was such great news, it just didn't feel like a win because he wasn't quite right. After a restless night, he sat on the couch with me. He was really cold, so when I felt him, he was really hot. I took his temperature, he had a fever, and started to pass out for the second time of this whole journey. I called EMS again, and we were back in the hospital. After taking his blood pressure and retaking it again, they rushed us back to where 10 providers were waiting on him and keeping me out of the room so they could stabilize him. Talk about scary. After a very long day of tests, they said he had sepsis and they started him on multiple antibiotics. That first night was one of the scariest nights of my life. At this point, Jeff is much better physically, and we are finally able to focus on the shoulder rehab, which is what started all this. There's much healing to do physically and more so emotionally. For a man who has run marathons, competed in triathlons, and has never even had a broken bone, this has been quite a jolting experience. The decision to stop Grief to Great Day had been made prior to all that, but looking back, I'm thankful for the certainty. If the decision had come later, I might have questioned my motives. I really don't know what's next, so I'm trusting, I am trying to trust God for the next best step. I want to pause here for a second and say how thankful I am for Kathy Brasby. She has graciously stepped in to lead the women in the Lighthouse community during my absence and has offered to make the podcast and resources available on her website. Her faithfulness and care, they have been such a blessing, not only to me, but to all of you as well. So here's what all this means going forward. The Lighthouse Community will close at the end of August, along with the Grief to Great Day website. However, the Grief Group for Christian Women, which was our private Facebook group, has reopened, and you are invited back in. The Grief to Great Day podcast will continue to be available publicly. You can find it now at kathybrasby.net under the grief page, along with a link to the Facebook group, or you can find it on all major podcast apps. Episodes that were only in the Lighthouse community will also be moved over, so you won't lose access to those. Now, when you hear about the Lighthouse community in some of those episodes, you're going to have to ignore it because I can't pull out all those references, or I would just have to delete the episodes. While there won't be any new, or I should say consistently new weekly episodes, I will still come back time to time to share occasional new episodes as God leads, along with other resources. I know change can feel unsettling, and it's a bit unsettling to me, but I want you to know that the heart of this ministry remains the same, always to point you to Jesus in the middle of your loss, and then encourage you to take the steps you need to take and do the work you got to do to heal. I want to thank you for letting me be a small part of your sacred grief journey. Please remember the season you're in, it's not your forever. It feels like it. You can't see your way around it, but I promise it is not your forever. God is faithful and healing, even if it's always slower than we want. I promise, with God at the center, the healing will come. Thank you for being here today. You know that by listening to this podcast, that's you taking action, and that's you showing up. I know this journey is so hard, but again, I promise you, you are not alone, and this is not your forever. Now, from time to time, you'll hear me talk about Monica. You didn't know Monica, but I wish you had. She was my best friend, my business partner, and was more like a sister. She was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma, and just 6 months later, she was gone. I watched those 6 months unfold in agonizing detail. The pain, the physical deterioration, the struggle for air, constant coughing. Y'all, if you've ever been a caretaker, you understand that that is gut-wrenching. But Monica didn't see it that way. She saw those 6 months as her walk toward healing, a journey of outrageous faith, complete dependence on the Lord, and a radical joy. While her body faded, her faith deepened. Every night, no matter how rough the day, she'd smile and say, "We had a great day, didn't we?" And if you can tell, that's where the name for this podcast comes from. See, her friendship changed my life. Her faith and death, though, they changed who I am. If you've ever wondered what it looks like to live above your circumstances, to walk through suffering with unshakable faith, or to witness someone dying and yet healing in the deepest way, then the book I wrote, Dying to be Healed, is a story you need to read. Trust me, you'll never see pain or faith the same way again. And if you don't have a church home, I'd love for you to visit my church, opendoorchurch.com, because staying connected in faith, it makes a difference, especially if you're not able to walk back through the doors of your own church right now. Remember, grief isn't something you get over, but a great day is something you can get to. Until next time, keep taking action, those small steps forward, and know that healing, it will come.